So 14 Peaks, the documentary has gone. I did watch it and I will say it will be very hard to try and match. But in the words of Nirmal Purja, he will be back. And after seeing this documentary, the film just makes me want to go and climb the highest mountain possible. And that's the very concept, the idea that Nirmal and his team wants to be ingrained on society. And just go and dream. And Project Possible have not just done that for the Nepalese, but for everyone. So after the success of my preview video, which I will link below, and to all of my new subscribers and old subscribers, this one is for you. And as I outline 8 of the most unbelievable moments in the documentary, 14 Peaks, nothing is impossible. Before I start, I just wanted to thank everyone that enjoyed and sent feedback on my preview. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if in the comments below if there are any unbelievable moments that you have found you would have put on this list. Please like and subscribe for more future content. So for anybody that has not yet seen this documentary, this is your official spoiler warning. Number 8, no stage ascent. So most people climb certain mountains in stages, usually to climatize and reclimatize before ascending again. It's kind of a way of allowing your body and your lungs to keep up. Project Possible bypassed 4 camps due to a particular weather window, and they summited in 1 day. Yes, that's 24 hours. Oh, and did I mention that Purja was hungover, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Commonly, climbers climb to certain camps as a way of kind of like a slow and steady approach, but Project Possible defied the odds. Despite partying the night before, Kanchenjunga really did meet its match. Number 7, blizzard. So I feel quite overwhelmed when I hear stories of just how desolate, cold and unforgiving altitude mountaineering can be. But while attempting to climb, and forgive me if I mispronounce any of these mountains, the Howlagiri, Nims and his team are caught in a horrific blizzard that, while carrying all of their numerous heavy equipment, even tests their climbing abilities and momentarily their will to continue the expedition. The footage is absolutely incredible and it just makes you shiver looking at it, but it doesn't stop them, and even more unbelievable is the time frame in which they summit, starting at 9 p.m. and summiting at 6 p.m. the next day. And to put that into perspective, in harsh weather conditions, the 7th highest mountain in the world during a blizzard would turn anybody else away completely. But watching that footage just made me want to crawl up by a big fire. At number 6, sniper story. In my opinion, the best aspect of this documentary lies in its artistic ability to give the audience context, and in parts of the expedition and Nims Purja's life, we are treated to an animation-like medley created and animated by the documentary crew. So partway through, it comes in the story in 2011 when Purja describes his time in the British Special Forces. While providing cover from a rooftop in the Middle East, Purja is engaged by a hidden sniper that manages to hit Purja, but luckily on the stock of his weapon. Unbelievably, and by destiny, God, chance, whatever you want to believe, the bullet misses him by a few centimeters. And if he was using his other arm, say, he would have been shot dead. Again, it is just an unbelievable story and cracking context that shows us a glimpse of, I would argue, Pim's strength and importance. At 5 is one that initially I found unbelievable, but if you think about it in terms of humanity, it's not really surprising. The photograph that Nirmal Purja took on the tip of the world's highest mountain became, at the time, more famous than him. It blew up. This image, titled Traffic Jam on Everest. Over the years, Everest has become more popular, especially with tourists. Ultimately, this leads to less safety windows, less expedition slots, and in Nirmal's case, tragically less time. Time that he desperately needed in order to accomplish his dream. During the documentary and after descending Everest, we are shown the unbelievable image, and if anything, it just highlights how much we don't respect Everest, how much we don't respect the planet, the Sherpas, that are constantly making the ultimate sacrifice just so that we can get an extraordinary insta-pic. I mean, the most unbelievable aspect of this would be that if you were in that traffic jam, the very busy, extremely rare climbing window that you had, you couldn't go anywhere. And if just one of those climbers had slipped, it would have been trouble for everybody. Really scary stuff. Again, we are treated to another animation, and while descending Namat in Pakistan, Purja tells the tale of him slipping and tumbling uncontrollably down the mountain, saved by what appeared to be a blue rope. He was destined to use all of his strength, tumbling 100 meters down the mountain, echoing his famous quote, "Not today, maybe tomorrow I might die, but not today." So at number 3, no oxygen. While Project Possible are descending one of the mountains, they come across an unfortunate climber who has ran out of oxygen and is dying, which isn't uncommon in altitude climbing. Often the toughest part is coming down. It's often the part that people do not respect and take for granted. It's one of the big killers. I mean, think about it. Every morsel of your being was stretched, reaching the summit, that climbers rarely consider how hard it is to descend. But in this particular moment, Project Possible gave essentially a stranger, this poor man, their own oxygen, literally putting themselves in harm's way for another human being. And this isn't the first time that they've done this on the expedition, but I'll come to that in a bit. Purja and his team had to make the decision that he never would have made. And I still to this day believe that if his team's lives weren't at risk as well, the decision wouldn't have been made. They stay and they try and help him, but the story gets worse. Astonishingly, we find out that during the ordeal, Purja has been without oxygen for 11 hours and ultimately falls ill with haste, which is one of the biggest killers in altitude climbing. That followed was a cracking story told through incredible artwork. His high altitude cerebral edema is one of the most unbelievable stories that culminates in this kind of unusual story that he tells about meeting a Yeti or meeting another climber and surviving like that, but you really do have to see it. I just thought this was astonishing. It almost kind of shows you the spiritual side of Purja, and it's kind of a way that he keeps going and keeps fighting, and it's really interesting to hear. Number 2, the Winter Summit. So a great climber by the name of George Bell in 1953 said that K2 is a savage mountain that tries to kill you. It's amongst, if not the most unforgiving mountain in the world in Pakistan, and if you're lucky enough to pass the pure overhanging ice cliff at the top called the Sarak, that causes extremely spontaneous ice avalanches just below the summit, or if it's the intense all around horrendous weather, then nothing will stop you. Project Possible conquering the first ever impossible winter summit of the King of Mountains, the Mountaineer's Mountain, really was an unbelievable moment in the expedition and the documentary, and has gone down in the records as the quickest climb of the Pakistani mountains, and due to the winter period, the most perilous feat in high altitude mountaineering history. You're probably asking what's going to top any of these, or realistically, that they are all just as courageous and unbelievable as each other. And you would be right, they all are. But like the no oxygen situation, a moment that stands out for me personally above any record or feat is how Nims, Mingma, Lakpa, Geljan and Gasang put their time, expedition and lives ahead of themselves to help a stranded climber. The task was perilous from the very beginning, so directly after their first summit, the team received a call that a stranded climber was still alive on the mountain, unable to get down, but ultimately the team do what they were trained and grew up to believe, that everyone deserves a chance to survive and should not be left to die. Contemplating wasn't even an issue for the team, and watching as they dangerously and heroically roll the dice to save this stranger shows just what unbelievably strong and selfless characters they have. Their bravery in that moment solidified to me that all of the Project Possible would complete the expedition alive and in good spirits. After this pure act of human selflessness, they all attached themselves to a nearby helicopter and lowered themselves down, attaching this poor man to a harness. This pure act of human selflessness. So there we have it, my top 8 unbelievable moments from 14 peaks. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot can be admired about their story, and this documentary gives a perfect balance in terms of the expedition itself, but also the personal context and family history of Nims Purja, showing us in breathtaking visuals just what his personal stakes were, whether it was his past duties to the British Special Forces, the Gurkhas, his loving wife and the financial aspect of his home, and even the remarkable story of his mother, and how she fought through a life-threatening illness to see her son accomplish the impossible, not just for the incredible people of Nepal, which he represents, but for humanity and what anybody can do if they dedicate themselves fully to something extraordinary. And on that note, take care everybody.